Check. Check.
You want to back off now?
Okay, I'm calling this meeting to order of the Marshalltown City Council. We are at City Hall Council Chambers. We're at 10 West State Street. It is April 8th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. If you're willing and able, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Kell.
Here.
Lottiehoff.
Here.
Mitchell.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Members of the public may make comments on any item which is not on the agenda tonight. The speaker shall approach the microphone and state his or her name. Comments shall be limited to about 3 minutes unless a longer comment is authorized by the mayor. The speaker shall direct comments to the mayor and to the council as a whole. The mayor and councilors shall not engage in discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public, and no action may be taken on items raised in public comment in order to comply with open meetings laws. And with that, we are ready for public comment.
I want to get this over with. I'm sorry, I want to get this over with. My name is Paul Elam. I live at 1403 Brentwood Terrace in town here. On April 2nd, on about 10:30, I came to the City Hall with the intent of talking to the nuisance person. Well, I encountered this young lady at, she's the Public Works Director, Heather Thomas, and she informed me that the officer, well, it's not an officer, but the nuisance person doesn't have a supervisor. So she said, I understood her to say that she was an interim supervisor, or I don't know whether he reports to her, or I'm not sure. And I don't know that anybody else knows for sure. But the bottom line is you can't get a hold of this guy. I've tried many times, left messages, phone messages, never gives you the courtesy even calling you back. So I talked to Heather, and she said she would try to help me. And I know I got 3 minutes, so I'm going to have to go really fast because the time frames here are very important to my issue. Anyway, she said if you would give me addresses, I'll see if I can't get it to the appropriate agency or the appropriate department so that we could address these issues. And it, by the way, it's for code violations. And so I gave her 3 addresses, one on Lynn Street, one on A Street, I thought at the time was a street, is Gooding Lane, and Brentwood Terrace, which is on the street that I live on, only on the other side of the loop, if you will. So she sent those addresses to Tupper's organization and CC'd the nuisance department, and that time was again on the 2nd at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're from 10:30 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She said, I think these are Mr. Tupper was the appropriate organization to take care and handle this situation. So she sent those addresses to Mr. Tupper and CC'd Trowbridge. I'm not sure I know. I think he's building inspector. I'm not sure exactly what his is, but he was CC'd on the email. Email back to me around 6 o'clock in the afternoon on April 2nd. And the 3 addresses were addressed, or just 2 of the addresses were addressed by Mr. Tupper, and he said his comeback to me was the vehicles in question were in compliance with city codes. In compliance with city codes, okay? So I said, I would like to know, for my own edification, is which code did you apply to those addresses to make a decision that there was no parking violation there. Whether it was on the street, whether it was on the parking lot, whether it was on the driveway, whether it was on the yard. How did you know by which code that you applied to that situation that there was no violation? His response was, basically, I'm going to high level it, but don't question my officers. They do their job. They know what they're doing when they go out there. And I'm considering this case to be closed. Okay? I thought, well, wait a minute. I don't consider it to be closed. I want you to answer my questions. What code did you use to apply to that situation to make a determination with your officer that's out there that there was no parking violation or any violation, code violation for that matter, anything? Wouldn't tell me. And I don't know to this day. So the Public Works Director, in the meantime, sent me a aerial view of the Gooding Lane address, and her comment was, after the fact, and here's the aerial view that she had. Whoop, I'm sorry. Don't touch that.
Careful.
Okay. Anyway, and her comment was that accompanied that aerial view. I'm having a hard time getting my papers separated here.
You're running close to your 3 minutes.
I know, that's what. Anyway, she said it wasn't a street. It's not a street. So if it's not a street, then what is it? If it's not a driveway, then what is it? To my opinion is that he didn't know what he needed to know when he went out there. So consequently, he sent another officer out a day later and come back, and lo and behold, we got parking violations there. Okay, what city code did you use in order to make that determination? Ain't telling you. They issued a citation to 1413 Gooding Lane, but he referred to it then as West Boone Street. Now I want to know, and I know you can't give me an answer right now, but I would like to know what code violations are being applied to those things like that, and if they are violation, what is the violation? Give me an idea of what the citation said. Because I'll tell you right, excuse me.
Paul?
Yes.
You're way over your 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, but
I do urge you to get with Heather Thomas or Mike Tupper, and
no, I'm not talking to Mike Tupper. I can talk to my city councilman right over here. He's Second Ward Council, and he's the one that took photographs and sent it back to Tupper's office to get another officer out there to make an exam and make a decision.
Mark should be able to help you.
I doubt it, but then thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hello, Jim Shaw, 522 North 2nd Street. A 9-year-old was bitten by a pit bull mix in Marshalltown Sunday. The 9-year-old was playing with a friend inside a fenced yard with the pit bull on the other side of the fence. The dog jumped the fence to attack the kids. The owner of the dog has outside cameras, but the police have not requested the video yet. The bites on his arms looked severe enough that he is now in a Des Moines hospital. This is another reason we don't need warnings about loose dogs or an officer using his discretion about dogs. We need tickets and severe fines. It might not have prevented this, but it might make the citizens of Marshtown realize they need to control their dogs. If this was the same dog that come out with me 2 weeks ago and it bit me yesterday, you think you don't have any money now. You wait. Okay, so it bit the dog, he's in the hospital, the dog's not in custody, and I wonder what we're waiting for. Are we waiting to see if he bites somebody else? The TR reported last week that somebody had been bitten last week. I don't have any details on that bike. But with at least 40 bites a year, along with these bites, it does make the case that we do have a problem with dog bites in Marshalltown. State and local laws, as well as home insurance restrictions, have placed a severe impact on pit bulls, the most commonly banned breed. Insurance refusal to underwrite policies usually leads to an abandonment or relinquishment to a shelter. The average dog bite claim had been around $44,000 in 2020, but has now risen to the average cost per claim of $50,245. The cost of settling all these claims is close to $800 million, according to the Insurance Information Institute. Major insurers follow specific state coverage that won't provide these households where these dogs lived, and they won't renew the policy if the presence of a vicious dog is discovered in their home. Each year, there are an alarming number of vicious injuries and fatal attacks against human breeds of dogs, says Karen Collins, Vice President of the American Property Casualty Insurance Association. And she says what's worse, half of these comprise children. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have anybody else?
Good evening, Deb Millizer, Director of the Marshalltown Central Business District at 34 West Main. And I just wanted to invite people to come downtown April 20th from 10 to 12 p.m. We're doing a downtown cleanup. And so the more hands, the faster we can get that done. We can show some love to the downtown community. And we're also looking for people to help us adopt some of the berms in the downtown to help keep them fresh all year long. So that's all I wanted to say at this moment.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone else have any public comment? See, well, you got up kind of slow there.
Yeah,
Hurry up, old man.
I'm a little slower nowadays. But I'm Ray Mitchum, 1402 South 3rd Avenue, and I just wanted to make some positive comments for the council from last meeting you had, where you thought it advisable to bring up the question of the Marshalltown Public Library with the board, and I thought that was a good way for people to understand there may be other issues than first that is known. And I know Tanya as the president of the board, and I supported her because I wanted everybody to know that there are lots of different ways that things can be considered that maybe haven't even been realized. And, I just brought the issue of the Epic Times this week to the library before I came here. And there was a lady at the counter, the free counter where they are, and she was looking through some other things, and she was very positive toward the Epic Times. She says, I've seen that here a few times. Now, it wasn't there tonight, so evidently the one I brought in a few days ago has disappeared. But I guess it's free, so they can have them. But a lot of people don't realize that the Epic Times always has the 4 sections. It's the regular news section, which of course is always very fair, a conservative and liberal. And then there is a opinion section, and then there is a health section, a body and mind section, and then there's always a tradition and life section. And she saw that tradition and life, and the name of the headline was The Power of Laughter. And she said, isn't that so? She says, my grandson would like to read that. And I've had so many people tell me, Ray, what is this thing about the Epic Times that presumably the library does not like? Because they read it, and it's very fair. And sure, there are conservative things there, but there are many, many good liberal counterparts. And I just think for those of you that haven't really sat down and read through one whole paper, 4 sections, I mean, it can be interesting, and it can open your mind. And as adults, we can say, yeah, that's okay, but I'm not going to read any more. And that's okay. But that's why I think people need to realize that the Marshalltown Board of trustees, for the library, I don't believe realize, and I wonder how many of them have even sat down and read a full paper. But I just wanted to bring attention that I think it was a good idea for the council to bring that up last time. And I think Julie as a president now and a lot of good board members, but I think it's an issue beyond that. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ray. Anyone else?
My name's Jim Lant. I live 610 North 4th Avenue. I've been up here for the last 2-3 months. And Mike, I know you can't comment on it, but I don't see it here on your agenda, the problems that we've been having. So how can I get a report on this, what you're doing about it? I'm entitled to an answer, just like that young guy here asked about. He's entitled to an answer. We're taxpayers.
We do have a list of steps that have been taken so far, and we can get that to you.
So you share it with us? Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay. Let's move to mayor, council, and administrator comments. Anything from the council? Anything from Cindy? I do have one thing. On April 13th, Ward 1 will be having our annual cleanup. We're joining with the Cleaniac people. The parks are already taken care of. If you need a good walk on Saturday, meet at Viasuato parking lot, the grocery store right over here. You can pick out whatever area you want to walk and pick up some trash, that kind of thing. And then also, as Deb has mentioned, April 20th, the downtown cleanup, and that is with Cleaniac also. Am I correct? Okay. We'd like to thank Cleaniac for helping with this kind of thing. We often hear people say that things aren't looking good around here. Well, here's your chance. Get on your tennis shoes, come out. It only takes a couple hours, it seems like. We have quite a few groups joining in this, picking out different parks. We have companies doing this in groups, and it shows really good community spirit and what we want to be. So,
Mike, can you reiterate the times for both of those and where to meet?
the April 13th at 9 o'clock, and you'll be there with tennis shoes on, right? Okay. I'm sure all of you will. And Deb, do you know what time yours start?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, you can sleep in a little. Okay, on April 20th. And you meet uptown?
Yes, in front of the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, good enough. So, with that being done, let's move on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes. We don't read those anymore, do we? I don't like that part. Okay, moving on to motions.
we have a motion to approve a new 8-month Special Class C retail alcohol license for Brewster's Inc. at the Marshalltown Softball Complex, 801 South 6th Street.
Move to approve.
Second, Your Honor.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any questions or comments? Anything from the public? Roll call, please.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Okay. Number 2.
Motion to appoint Gary Thompson to the Solid Waste Commission, term ending January 13th, 25.
I so move. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Abstain due to a conflict of interest?
Pell.
Yes.
Motion passed. Number 3.
Motion to approve Mark Mitchell as an alternate on the Solid Waste Commission, term ending December 31st, 26.
Move to approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
I'll have to abstain. Conflict of interest.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. And now to 4.1.
motion to suspend the council manual rules for a motion to reconsider.
So moved.
Second, Your Honor.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to reconsider the disposal of dilapidated buildings from the 3/11/24 meeting. This also will take 5 votes to reconsider, not just 4, because it is a reconsideration, just so everyone knows that we're not doing something snaky. I have a motion and a second.
Yeah. This motion is just to suspend the council manual rules in order to make a motion to reconsider.
So we first need to suspend the council rules.
Correct.
Okay. So,
Your Honor, if I may?
yes, you may.
One of the reasons I asked for this to come back, to use the wrong terminology, I feel as a counselor that everybody needs their day in court. And it was brought to my attention that the individual that first approached the city about what we're going to get into is the 2 properties further on, that he was unaware that that his issue was even on the agenda. So I may or may not agree with if we change the vote. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying everybody deserves to have their case heard, and that's why I am for this motion to reconsider. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. So I got the 4.1 wrong. First, we need to have a motion and suspend the council manual rules for a motion to reconsider. This also takes a supermajority of 5 votes. So I would consider a motion to reconsider, or a motion to suspend the council rules.
Yeah, that's the motion that I read, and we have a Nichols, yep. So we're ready to vote.
Okay.
Okay. Schneider,
No.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell,
No.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Motion failed. Therefore, 4.1 is off the table. And we'll move down to resolutions.
Resolution 2024-65 to reallocate the 2020 GO bond funds up to $750,000 for the downtown street construction projects in lieu of the railroad safety and quiet zone.
Move to approve.
Second.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. The city has approximately $750,000 left in Fund 362, which is the 2020 GO bond funds. It was originally allocated for the railroad safety and quiet zone. Due to circumstances outside the control of the city staff, this project has slowed down. It may be a few more years before the project can be completed. Since we borrowed at such a low interest rate, 0.68% arbitrage rate, and we have been earning between 2.25 and 5% the last several years, we are likely to have to return some of the interest earned to the IRS. For these reasons, it has been recommended by Bond Council to use the funds for another project. So in the GO bond documents, it indicates that you can use those funds for downtown streets. So we have expenses now for the State Street reconstruction that was paid out of Fund 363, the 2021 GO bond. So this resolution, if approved, will switch the expenditures. I will switch the expenditures or prepare a transfer from Fund 363 for the street to the Fund 362 to get that money spent. If costs need to be paid later for the railroad safety and quiet zone, we can pay them out of other bond funds. No special hearing is required to make this change.
Does anyone have any questions for Diana?
I don't have any questions, Your Honor, but I do have a comment. I'm going to support this, but I still do want to see the Quiet Zones project go forward. So I hope we can keep our eyes on that.
I agree with Jeff. I do want to see the quiet zones move forward, but we do need to move on the bonded money. So, anything else from anyone? Roll call, please. What? Oh, any public comment? Seeing none? Oh.
Joe Carter, 610 Elmwood Drive. Just a question. Diana commented that the interest might have to go back to the IRS, but I presume that if we do spend it on the roads, we wouldn't have to, we'd be able to maintain that interest money, but that wasn't made clear, and I wanted to make certain if that was the case.
The IRS has an arbitrage calculation that we'll have to do on it, and because there's a difference in the gain from what the money was borrowed versus what the money has been earning as it's been idle, we'll have to go back to the IRS.
Good question. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Okay. Number 2.
Resolution 2024-76, approving the amended development agreement with Glenwood Marshalltown LLC.
I'll take that one if I may. This is the Glenwood.
I'll move to
Excuse
approve.
me.
Second.
This is the Glenwood Economic Development discussion that started in '21, and it is an amendment to that discussion in certain terms, and that is primarily in the length in which the development agreement is going to be staged. They're asking for staging in 4 different segments. That way, the tax increment financing would also be staggered in 4 different segments, depending upon the amount of construction that is done within any given segment. One of the protections for the city is that the term is going to be limited by the dollar amount, which you've already approved and is in the plan. It will also be limited by the years. It cannot, no one segment can go for more than 10 years, and then the last segment can go out no longer than 2043. So those are safeguards in the amendment now that were not in the previous agreement.
Any other questions or comments?
Your Honor, if I may? Cindy, can you explain, if we amend this, what does this do to the new rules the state has put on? I mean, does it grandfather into the original amendment, or do we need to have public hearings on this TIF agreement in moving forward with the new rules the state has put on us?
The state will not require a new public hearing on individual developers agreements like this. If we would amend the plan itself, the urban renewal plan for, I believe this is District 6, that would require a public hearing, but not just an amendment such as this.
Your Honor, I have a problem with amending this. We are constantly being told that we need to have building lots available for the construction that needs to take place because we have shortage of housing. This developer put the infrastructure in, put the lots in, and am I assuming then that he wants to slow this into phases because he's not selling the lots as fast as he thought he would?
Yes, that's correct.
Then I don't understand, you know? I don't know why we would slow down our money that he owes us for the LMI.
The LMI is based upon the increment, and if he does not build the houses, the LMI is not generated. So we want to make sure that we can get the growth going as fast as we can, and by doing it in smaller segments, doing it by 4 segments perhaps, then we would get to mobilize the LMI sooner. If we wait till the entire build-out of the 42 units, that may take a longer time or not be able to materialize at all.
I'm just confused as why what we were sold on day one isn't coming to fruition. And I think we're setting a precedent for future developments. So, again, I'm against this.
Any other questions? Anything from the public?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Hall, Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce, 34 West Main Street. I do agree with Councilman Thompson that this would be setting a precedent tonight. The precedent we would be setting is that if individuals choose to take a risk by investing in our market, that our city stands behind their investment and stands with them at taking that risk. Tonight, what you're being asked for is reconsideration on a development agreement that I was not here when the negotiations took place, but a development agreement that presumably there's an outside developer that chose to invest in our community. They could have invested those dollars into what would be considered less risky communities, but they chose to invest that here in Marshalltown. That investment has not panned out at the speed at which they anticipated, and we have an opportunity to say, you know what, thank you for investing in our community. We have some legal requirements in terms of the length of time we can total kick this out. So there is a date on there at the end of that sunset. The maximum dollar amount's not changing. What we are saying is we are flexible as a community and stand with you and thank you again for investing in our community. So Councilor Thompson, I would challenge you to reconsider your position on this and think about the precedent that it sets with regards to folks looking to invest in our community. Thank you.
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. So I understand what John just said about the risk and supporting a developer through that risk. I understand that teamwork completely. I'm mostly concerned with kind of what Councilor Thompson led to at the beginning is the TIF rules are changing effective July 1, and we can no longer get TIF from the schools. So how will this be affected, if at all, by adding more burden to this TIF project to the city and to the county? And to that end, we had a good start on a TIF, and maybe I could answer my own question if we could have about 6 more lessons and get that whole 8-hour class in.
I would like to say that, yes, the PEPL and the physical property, I cannot remember that acronym, I'm sorry, but that is being carved out just like any of the general obligation debt is carved out for not only the school, but also for the city and for the county. And so as a result, those are all held harmless when it comes to calculating the increment that is going to be used and based on it. And then the LMI that you referred to is going to be almost 41% of the amount that's collected on the increment. So those are carved out as of July 1. We have an additional school levy that's being carved out.
Can I ask one more question? Sure. Just to clarify. Okay, so just to clarify, so today, TIF gets pulled from the school, the county, and the city. And the state backfills TIF for the school at a certain level, about 60%, not totally. But effective July 1, HF 718 says, no more TIF coming out of the school because we're not backfilling it. And that's my concern. I understand the PEPL and the debt, that's safe today, but after July 1st, it's like you can't touch school at all. So is this grandfathered so that,
No, it will not be.
so we're going to carry a heavier burden, no?
Not necessarily, because again, the increment is the only thing that this developer is asking their calculation to be
understand.
based on.
Yeah.
And when it does not go into the increment, that's going to be a risk that's shared with the developer.
Okay.
Before calling roll, I'd just like to, my opinion is, I think.
Hey, Mike, your mic's off.
I don't know how I did that. In the interest of moving the city forward in that, I think we need to make sure that the face of the city council is we're willing to work with developers. Sometimes when you put together a several $million project, then all of a sudden you hit high interest rates or other things that you did not anticipate, that the city doesn't step on your neck. And I fully support this. I think it's a good idea. With that, let's have a roll call.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
No.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff? Mitchell?
No.
I'm used to sitting over there with that microphone. Okay, ordinances.
We have a public hearing. Public hearing and resolution 2024-77, approving the status of funding update for the Iowa Economic Development Authority Community Development Block Grant Downtown Revitalization Project.
Okay, I declare this public hearing open at 6:07 PM. Does anyone in the public have any comment? Is there anything from staff?
Heather's going to read the minutes.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works, helping with some community development items this evening. This public hearing is related to the status of funds for a project, the Downtown Revitalization Project, that we received CDBG funds for. As such, this public hearing does require me to read through and go through certain items, so please bear with me as I go through part of this memo. This project is revitalizing 8 storefronts in downtown Marshalltown. Work completed to date includes masonry work on 25 West Main Street, which is Smoking G's, 1 West Main Street, 14 North Center Street, 16 North Center Street, and 18 North Center Street, which are all at the northwest corner of Center and Main. We've also done awning and old signage removal and new upper story windows for 21 and 23 West Main. We've also completed the replacement of 1 West Main's upper transom, which is the new building, or the building that the Britt Marie is now moving into. I also have one update from my memo. The roof work that was going to be in progress for 21 West Main Street as of last week did get delayed, so that has not yet started. Expenditures to date is $592,634.21, of which $211,516 is from the CDBG grant. Remaining work on this grant includes $471,633.79 of construction costs. This will include new windows at 1 West Main, 14 North Center, 16 North Center, and 18 North Center, structural and roof work on 21 West Main, structural stabilization of the north wall at 21 and 23 West Main, completing storefront work on 14 West Main, masonry replacements of historic brick on 21 and 23 West Main, providing window weeps at 21 and 23 West Main, and painting the exterior siding at 14, 16, 18 North Center. Thank you.
There's nothing from the public? Are there any written comments?
No written comments.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting. Oh.
Staging.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting closed at 6:09 PM and move on to the resolution.
Move to approve, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to ordinances.
Ordinance 15084 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 91, Fire Prevention and Protection, Violation Penalty, third reading.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Have a
Second.
motion?
Are you still staging?
No, I have moved up to level 1. I'm in the incident now.
So you're the next level?
Yes, yeah, I'm actually in the hot zone, getting it on. Okay, my name is Christopher Cross. I'm the interim fire chief for the city of Marshalltown. This is the third reading before you, allowing a municipal infraction to be issued to noncompliance for fire code violations found by the fire marshal and inspectors. We didn't have this ability before, and we recommend approval. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything from the public? Roll call, please.
Kell,
Yes.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Okay, on to discussion items. We have the MCBD request for Cartwright Pavilion improvements for food truck court. Deb, you're on.
I'm on. Deb Millizer, Director of the Marshalltown Central Business District, 34 West Main Street on downtown Marshalltown. The good thing about being short is if I hide behind here, I don't have to make eye contact with anyone. Actually, I wanted to talk to you tonight about the possibility of utilizing the Cartwright Farmers Market or Cartwright Market area to do a pilot project of a food truck court. Other communities are starting to spring up and have food truck courts. Ames has one with community choice. It's community choice, and then they're building one in their downtown, which also has a skating rink that has a cooler in it as well. Oh, Joe's gone. I was trying to aspire to get to that. So I have toured the other food truck courts and met with Community Choice, Credit Union, and talked with Heather. I've had a couple discussions with Jeff and a couple discussions with Tricia, who is the Cartwright Market Manager. And MCBD would like to do a pilot project where we have 2 or 3 trucks there. For the first couple of months, it would be no charge. If it goes well, then we would like to add a charge to it. But we want to see how it goes first. We'd also like to make some improvements to the Cartwright Farmers Market area. Not high-end improvements, but improvements that would bring some greenery. I did have Main Street Iowa do a couple of renderings for me. I think that was in your packet. We would like to do an archway and some planter boxes, which I've already talked to the farmers market that they're willing to help maintain as well. We're wanting to make sure that it's a project that can be maintained and is not overwhelming for anybody, any of our partners. But we think that this is a great opportunity to see if a food truck court would work well in Marshalltown. Food trucks are a magnet for people. People really enjoy them. We'd like to create a destination in the downtown where people come and they enjoy different cuisine, whether it's a tenderloin, cheesesteaks, any kind of other cuisines. We'd ideally like to swap out the trucks on a regular basis. We'd like to do this from our Main Street Market analysis. We learned that people are looking for different food choices on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday because several of our downtown restaurants are closed on one of those days. And so we still have businesses in the downtown. You know, Emerson's still walking to have lunch, and other businesses in the downtown, and we'd like to draw people downtown and enjoy that. So I laid out a lot of stuff in the packet that I gave you. I tried to keep it very simple of my process, my thinking, the how, why, when, all of that. So I've rattled off a bunch of information. Do you have any questions for me or anything that you want me to clarify?
Deb, I do have one question.
Yes,
When you
sure.
talked about charging, you were talking about charging the food
The
trucks,
food
right?
trucks.
Yeah,
Something
not the
like
patrons.
No, not the patrons. What we were thinking is if it goes well, if we were able to have a fee for it, a small fee, I'm talking like maybe $40 for one day or $75 for 3 days, something like that, it would give some money in the pot to enhance it a little bit further.
Okay, and you're also looking at signage possibly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good
Signage
enough.
as well. We would work with Heather, whoever within the city to make sure we had the appropriate signage. I've also talked with Heather about the best place to park the food trucks. I think we have room for 4 or 5, depending on the layout down there. We talked about traffic flow. I talked with Jeff about picnic tables. I've had lots of smaller conversations, but it didn't make sense to further these conversations unless I had the council's approval.
Yeah, and the farmer's market is all on board with this, as far as I know.
Yes,
Yes.
so they are excited about the possibility, and another reason why we chose the days of Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday is because the farmer's market is there on on Saturday, and so we don't want to interfere with their market. We want to bring more life to the space on different days of the week.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Deb? Now, am I correct that this doesn't need any council approval? However I want to do it.
Your Honor, I do have some questions. I think Greg does too.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, do you have an idea of cost and stuff?
So I have only priced out flower boxes and a mock-up of the arch, and it's about $4,000 to $5,000 for everything that we're thinking about doing.
And the food trucks, I mean, basically the farmer's market's just Saturday, but you're proposing that the food trucks be there 3 different days. I mean, that's what's written down.
We would like to have them on Sunday, Monday, and if they'd like to stay there for Tuesday, that would be great too.
Wednesday.
Saturday and Wednesday, but with all of their traffic, there's not enough space for the food trucks to be there at the same time. I mean, honestly, if we could map it out to where they were there on Saturday at the same time, I'd do that, but as far as what I've been told is the traffic is so congested there that it probably doesn't have enough parking.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I think it's a good idea to try.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
for clarification, what's the ask from the city perspective?
I'm just asking for permission to do it down there and have your blessing. And, I mean, we need to make some improvements, like we want to paint the pavilion, add some greenery, some things like that, some basic things. So I don't know what the formal thing that I need from you is, but I would like to have your blessing to move forward.
Your Honor, if I may?
Yes.
Deb, my question is, the food trucks are going to be on city property and pay you to be there?
Isn't that what the farmer's market does as well?
Farmers Market has an agreement, if I remember right, an agreement with the city to operate 2 days a week. But we don't have any ordinances that conflict that I know of with the farmer's market. We have an ordinance for food trucks. So are you wanting us to circumvent the ordinance for the food trucks being there?
I think it would be a public use permit.
Yeah, I would require them to complete a public use permit if the council wants to proceed with this, so the trucks could operate.
And then my other concern is, our Main Street is 6 blocks long. All the businesses are on Main Street. Why do you want to take traffic off of Main Street where the retail businesses are? We have vacant lots on Main Street that I don't know why we're not selling or marketing them, and maybe we are, but why wouldn't we, if we're going to do this, why wouldn't we do this on Main Street where after they dine, they can shop right there?
Well, it is, I understand your concern, and ideally it would be on Main Street. However, we already have the infrastructure over on State Street. And so we have the pavilion there. We have parking available there. In the downtown right now, if we wanted to do a food truck lot, we can't have gravel in the downtown. If we want to do a pilot program, we can't bring in gravel and set up on a public lot and be able to do that. It's just, we're trying to take an asset that we already have and elevating that asset and doing it as a pilot program. And if it's successful, maybe the city or another organization would invest in a food truck lot.
I love the idea of a food truck court. You and I have talked about what they did over in Ames, and they're doing that right across from City Hall, doing that whole, where it used to be a parking, they took away a parking lot to do that, the skating and put the bathrooms in and everything, what you were talking about. I just don't like the location. I think it's, to be blunt, it's putting lipstick on a pig. The pavilion needs to be torn down, and either we sell that quarter of a block to a developer on the new street down there and do something downtown, or build a new pavilion. It's too low. It's not adequate. It's not wide enough for even the farmer's market. I just don't like investing in the wrong location is what I'm at, so.
Well, all of the items that we're planning on purchasing, okay, so let me clarify, back up a little bit. So the MCBD has been talking about for a while of doing different pocket parks, items that can be moved from one location to another location. So we thought what we would do is we would use those funds that we were going to use for pocket parks and be able to utilize it there and see if a food truck court would make a go in downtown Marshalltown. It is just a block off of Main Street. Ideally, would I like to have something that is more appealing, more modern? Yes, I would, and I see what you're saying. However, this is what we have, and my organization doesn't have a lot of funds to put in great, big, huge upgrades, but we do have enough funds that we could spruce it up a little bit, bring the food trucks there, and see if the public will come there and enjoy the food trucks.
One more question, Your Honor.
Yes.
Restrooms and hand washing stations, are you footing the bill for that then, the MCBD?
We don't have to have them there.
Okay. Please talk to the closest business there that's open during farmer's market and see how they feel about events there that don't have restroom facilities.
I understand, and I did talk to farmer's market about that. If we did decide to add that, it would have to be a shared expense.
If I may?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been to many different towns for bike night. Did you ever think about putting the food trucks up on like 2nd Street, or I mean 1st Street and around the courthouse, and so people can view our beautiful courthouse?
What hours of operation would you want that to occur in? The reason why I'm chosen, we bring food trucks in for events, so that are downtown, like Be Ridiculous Day, Holiday Stroll. We do bring food trucks then into town, and we park them on First Ave between the courthouse and the annex building in that section there. I'm open to other suggestions. I'm simply trying to utilize the space that we currently have that's being underutilized.
I guess it was First Avenue. I corrected on that. But that'd be great to do. I mean, you would have all kinds of people biking in, and they spend a lot of money.
Yes, I think part of the downtown revitalization plan, or the downtown reconstruction, is talking about and considering other ways we could lay out food trucks and farmers market and some other things like that. So in the future, I would love to see that, but we're also going to have, hopefully in 2025, we're going to have reconstruction in downtown Marshalltown. So it wouldn't make sense to do that there this year or next year.
Your Honor?
Yes.
As this is appropriately titled, it's a pilot project. So a great opportunity to test it out, see if it works. If this location is a permanent home, great. If there's a better location, great as well. But we can't solve all the problems without first trying. So with that, are you going to seek a motion?
Let's go ahead and do a motion.
I would seek a motion to approve this pilot program and make it explicitly clear, as as we already asked, that it will initially have $0 asked or requested of the city.
No public comments?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. The only comment that I have is that I'm actually on the committee that did this, and we reviewed it as a good first step in, and let's give it a shot. It's low cost. Let's see what the reaction is. I understand what Councilor Thompson is saying, but I would hate to put a couple $100,000 or $50,000, $60,000 into one of the empty lots, and then the lots get bought, and we got to tear the whole thing up. So I think as a pilot project, I think it's a good project. It's fun, and it costs the city nothing. So with that, what's that? Public comment?
Yes.
Alan Kent, 612 North 4th Avenue. Have you thought about, do these trucks have to have their permits, the license showing,
Oh,
and
yes, they
be
will.
inspected on a regular basis? Because
Yes.
all the restaurants have to.
Yeah, they have to have all their current permits and food licenses and all of that. And be
And it all
inspected.
has to be displayed also?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah,
Yes, that's correct. The ordinance requires it, and the state requires that they display their license.
okay. All I want to know.
Anything else from the public?
Doris, Connect 2020 Catalina Place, I think this is a great idea. I love it. I love the farmer's market. I love the atmosphere there, and I think having the food trucks is just, for a pilot program, go for it. Absolutely.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's have a roll call.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Sure, yes.
Kell?
Yes.
Lottiehoff?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Fourth Ward vacancy.
Yes, Your Honor. With the loss of Counselor Hoop, we have a vacancy in the Fourth Ward, so the council needs to decide if they want to proceed with an appointment for the vacancy, which must be done within 60 days, so that deadline is May 19th. If they choose not to do an appointment, we will need to call for a special election, which would be held for either July 16th or July 23rd. Those are the dates the election office advised that the council would have to choose from. If you proceed with an appointment, the seat would automatically go on the election ballot in November. It also allows for the public to file a petition for a special election if the council does proceed with an appointment.
Thank you. Well, what's your opinion? Let's start with you, Mark.
I think we got to let our constituents make that choice, and I think we should have a special election.
Okay. Mr. Kell.
Exact opposite direction. I think looking at the timeline, we have the luxury of seeking letters of interest to try to appoint first, go through that. If nothing happens, it doesn't really jeopardize the overall timeline because we're looking at seating someone in late July, early August if we go special election. And then looking at the cost of the special election, 10 to 12,000 is the expected cost. Last fall, it looks like 402 people voted from that ward. That's a pretty expensive election for a relatively low turnout.
Thank you. I'll give my opinion. My opinion is that we should just go to a special election. I don't know of a person that I think would satisfy a majority of the council, in my own opinion. I think we should just go straight to the special election, but that's my own opinion. Greg?
I would agree that I think we just need to go to the special election. I think it should be the citizens decide it. I was unopposed last election, so 402 is probably reflecting in that. But even if it's not, I do think the people that are in that district ought to have the say in who represents them. And I don't know anybody else that would suit everybody else either.
Jeff?
My first thoughts align with Barry, but it looks like we're going to probably be going special election route.
Okay. Gary?
Well, I've gone public with this before, when I first joined the council, that I don't believe any elected position should be filled by appointment, no matter if only 2 people turn out to vote. They have a choice of who represents them. And I can guarantee you, because if we do appoint, I personally will get the petition to have a special election, as I did in First Ward that seated your mayor pro tem. So, again, I strongly believe the taxpayers have a right to choose their representation. So it's a no-brainer for me, special election.
Okay. Is that in the form of a motion?
So move.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any other comments up here?
Need clarification on the special election, Your Honor. If we have a special election in July, that person is seated after it's ratified by the county, and then they fill that term for the 3.5 years left on Al's term, correct?
That's correct.
And then, getting back to the motion, do you need the motion for which date we're going to choose?
Yes, please.
Say the earlier July date is July 16th, if I remember right.
Correct, July 16th or July 23rd.
And I will,
Saying July 16th, let's go the earliest date.
and I will second that.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the crowd? Okay, roll call.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Okay. We're going to fill by special election. Okay. As everyone knows, we're going to be looking for a new city administrator. Let me see here. With us, we have someone from, I'm trying to look at,
MGT of America Consulting.
yes. Thank you. Thank you. Don't know what I'd do without you guys. We're going to do this a little bit differently in having a recruiting firm look at it. And I have Mr. Mark Peterson. Come on up front, Mark.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I'm just going to turn the meeting over to you.
If you don't mind, I'm going to move this.
Yeah,
Got some
you can-
space for my papers.
You can just cruise with it.
Well, I am delighted to be here.
Thank you.
In beautiful Marshalltown, and I look forward to assisting all of you in what is a very, very important recruitment process. I tell city councils this may be one of the more important decisions that you make on the council in your tenure, and we're going to work hard with you to hopefully get the right person on board. This is, we call it the kickoff meeting. It is really the official start of the process. And we've got a number of items to talk about tonight. You've got kind of a discussion outline in front of you. And I'm going to be soliciting your feedback on a number of questions and your guidance. Let me give you just a quick summary of my own background. I'm born and raised in Iowa, even though I live in Illinois now, and I worked for a couple of different Iowa municipalities in my career. By the way, I'm a graduate of Ankeny High School, and that's back when Ankeny was a sleepy little bedroom community with one high school. And every time I go back, I can't believe what's happened to that town. I'm also a proud graduate of the University of Iowa, where I got my undergrad degree and my master's degree in public administration a long, long time ago. I worked in Missouri and spent the lion's share of my career in Illinois. I was the most recent position, I was the city manager of Normal, Illinois. Yes, I was the only normal city manager in the country. That is true, if there is one. And I also served as the assistant. I joined GovHR in 2018, and since that time, I have handled probably about 50 recruitments. The lion's share of those have been city administrator or city manager recruitments, but I've done assistants, I've done department heads, executive directors for not-for-profit companies. I've also done other things. I assist cities with strategic planning and performance review, organizational analysis, or whatever is needed. I'll try to. But certainly, I would say 70% of my engagements are recruitment oriented, and it is, as you are all probably aware, over the last few years, the recruitment environment has become challenging just about for any position, and city administrators are no exception. When I first started this recruitment stuff, we do a city administrator position and we get 50, 60, maybe 70 applications. Today, the last few years, 20 to 30 probably is a good turnout. Why is that? Well, nobody knows for sure, but I will tell you that there are a lot of city administrators and city managers that have gray, thinning hair like me that are retiring, and there just isn't the pool of candidates in the pipeline to backfill. Fewer and fewer young people are choosing public service for a career, so graduate schools are not very full like they used to be. And that's created a challenge for those of us who are trying to replace or fill city administrator positions. The other thing that I think I have seen in recent years is administrators are less likely to move than they once were. Some of that, I think, has to do with the sort of vitriolic and sometimes confrontational politics we see in this country, and it's trickling down into the local level. And a lot of city administrators, if they're comfortable and they feel like they have a good political environment, are just not interested in looking for new opportunities. But that's my job, to try to find those people who hopefully are the right fit and have the skill set that you're looking for, and convince them that this is a great opportunity, which I believe that it is. And that's what I will profess to do for all of you. We have some challenges, as you probably know, but every community has its challenges. And we'll talk. I'll have the opportunity to meet with each of you individually tomorrow. I'll also meet with Mayor Greer virtually, and we'll talk about some of those challenges and how, from my perspective, we can overcome those and attract a good pool of candidates and hopefully give you some real legitimate choices. And that's certainly my goal. I also want to emphasize that I'm here to help. I'm here to provide my expertise not only as a practitioner, but also as a recruiter. But this is your process, and I want to make it clear, it's not mine, it's not my company's, it's yours. So as we start talking about process, I'm going to give you some recommendations or some suggestions on maybe how I feel it is the best way to approach it. But I want you to feel free to say, I'd like to consider something different. And I will be honest with you. If I think that's a wrong move, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you why. But if that's what you want to do, as long as it's legal and ethical, that's what we'll do, and I'll support you 100%. So as we go through this process, I'm going to be honest with you, and I want you to be honest with me, but you're driving the bus. And because you're going to be held accountable for the decision, and you have to live with the decision, so you have to be comfortable with the process. And I'll do my best to help you through that. So tonight we have a whole list of things that we're going to talk about. And at any time, raise your hand if you've got a question or a concern. You know, this is informal. But I want to talk, first of all, about the schedule. And we handed out, I didn't grab it. Let me get the schedule real quick. By the way, I like to move around, but I'm going to try to stay put so I'm close to the microphone so everybody can hear me. I believe that Jill provided you with a draft recruitment schedule, and this says draft all over it. So this is just something, kind of a starting point for our conversation, okay? Again, I'm just going to walk through this, and this sort of, as we walk through the schedule, it really talks through the process. And so, again, this can be modified however you feel is appropriate and useful and beneficial to the city of Marshalltown. But we start off with this meeting where we're going to cover a variety of topics and related to the recruitment process. I then am going to interview stakeholders, this group being the most important group of stakeholders, but as we get into the agenda, I want to see if there's other people that I should be talking with up front. Oftentimes, we talk with senior staff and get their input. There may be certain community leaders or other governmental officials that you'd like me to confer with as we perform our due diligence to begin this really lengthy and important process. It's kind of a fact-finding process. I like to conduct those interviews face-to-face, but sometimes it just doesn't, schedules don't permit, but we'll probably use some virtual platforms for those as well. So we're going to go through this schedule, and then hopefully I'll get some feedback from you today or this evening, but you have a few days to think about it, to suggest changes, and we'll discuss those. Based upon the feedback I received tonight, as well as from our individual meetings, I'm going to put together something called the candidate profile. And that is a document that really describes the ideal city administrator candidate. If we could get online and order just what we want, that's what it would look like. We're not necessarily going to get the ideal, but we need to, at the outset of this process, we need to know what we want. And that will inform me as to what I'm looking for, and you as what you're looking for. So we'll deliberately talk about what are the skills, the personal attributes, the leadership style that you think is the right fit for Marshalltown. And I'll take all this information that I gather from our interviews tomorrow, from other stakeholders, and I will present you with this document that this is what I heard you say. And then you'll have the opportunity to say, no, that's not quite what we want. Let's make some modifications. And hopefully we end up with something that all of you can say, yeah, that makes sense. I like that. That's what we're looking for. I kind of liken it to when you go to buy a new car and you go to the car dealership, you usually, when you walk on the lot, you have a pretty good idea what you want. It's rare that you go, says, I don't know if I want a pickup truck or a sports car or an SUV. Usually you have an idea of what you want. In fact, oftentimes you even know some of the features. I'd really like, heated seats and a sunroof and boy, I like green. You come in with a list. Now, you're never going to probably get everything you want. Well, it's a blue one. I didn't like blue, but it had everything else I want. It's kind of that way in this process, as we need to decide what it is that we're looking for, and then go out and as we begin to evaluate the applicants, go back and look at that candidate profile. And we'll bring that back at the end of the process, because it's really an internal document just for us. But we'll bring that back at the end, and as we look at individual candidates, I'm going to ask you to say, how does that match what you told me you wanted at the outset of the process? Okay? Doesn't mean you can't change your mind, but I think it's helpful that we remember where we started, and it's helpful, I know for me, as applications are received, as I look at those and I can evaluate which ones seem to be most aligned with what you told me you were looking for. So that's an important step in the process. And again, that's really a document that's not shared publicly. It's just shared with me and each of you, and we'll bring that back later to talk about it, okay? Then we come to the position announcement. That's basically the job advertisement. And that's usually kind of limited in space, usually 2 pages. Most of it's electronic anymore. And I will give you a draft of that position announcement, give you a few days to react to it. And I will also share with you a list of advertising sources. And these are largely professional organizations. We do a lot with social media. LinkedIn has become hugely important in executive recruitment. So that will definitely be on the list. And you may have some local advertising venues you would like us to use as well. We have a budget for that. I'm kind of a stickler for staying within the budget. In fact, it's not uncommon that I will come back and recommend a list to you that's actually lower than the budget. Some of these advertising venues are outrageously expensive, and I'm not sure we get the value, but there are others that are essential. So I'll get your feedback on the advertising venues. We'll work together on determining, and then once we approve the position announcement, we are on the street. We're going to get this posted, and my goal is to have this thing posted by April 23rd. That's not a lot of time. There's a lot of things to happen in there, so we have to hustle. And I'm going to ask you for feedback, and I'll ask that you respond as quickly as you can to keep this thing moving. We want to be expeditious, but we also want to be careful, and we want to make sure it's done right. It's too important of a process. So if we hit that April 23rd date, then I'm proposing a May 24th deadline for applications. And that gives 30 days, and that's pretty standard, a 30-day application period for candidates to consider the position and submit their applications. I will tell you this, we usually get a flurry at the beginning, and we get a flurry at the very end. Oftentimes, I've found some of our best applicants come the last day or 2 days of the process, for whatever reason, but usually there's a flurry at the end. I will do my best to keep you all updated throughout that process, because it's kind of a quiet process for you. You've done all your work up front. Now it's my job. I'm making phone calls. I'm responding to phone calls from potential candidates that want more information. I'm talking to other colleagues. We have 36 recruiters at GovHR, and so we all help each other. And if somebody says, hey, I had a really good candidate in another process that didn't get selected, great, I'll reach out, see if they're interested in Marshalltown. There's a lot of that going on behind the scenes. We don't just post it and sit back and wait. We are actively working our networks to try to find the right people and persuade them that this is a great opportunity, and hopefully they'll apply. That's what it takes today. You can't just post it and wait for people to apply. You have to be proactive. And there's, it's not unusual. I'll call somebody up and I'll say, hey, I've got, I know you, or I know of you, and I've got an opportunity I think that's perfect. And they say, well, yeah, I'm really not looking. Well, I understand that, but would you consider it? Well, okay, send me the materials, I'll look it over. And it's surprising how many times they submit an application even though they aren't looking. Those are sometimes some of the best candidates. We will get, I can tell you right now, probably 8 or 10 applications. I could probably give you a list of people that will apply that you don't want. Okay, and that's part of my job. I know the network, I know people, and if you're interested, you can certainly look at them, but I'm going to tell you reasons why I don't think, even though on paper this person looks pretty good, I don't think this is the type of person you're looking for. And again, that's what I can bring to the table for you. So once it's posted, then we get that posted, and then we do the recruitment brochure, which is kind of a marketing piece. It's a slick, lots of photos, and we talk about all the nice things that Marshalltown has to offer. We get a lot more detailed about the position and the organization. We talk about the challenges that the city administrator is going to be facing, as well as the opportunities. Again, we all have blemishes. We don't hide the blemishes, but we're not going to, put them on for page one. Okay, we want to sell the community and sell the position, but I also am a big believer in being transparent. And if there are issues, we'll share what our issues are. And that's one of the things I'm going to ask each of you tomorrow when we meet are what are some of the big challenges that the new administrator is going to face within the first year or two of being appointed. So that brochure gets finalized, and that also, we send that out to a lot of prospective candidates. That's kind of some nice sizzle. And I've done brochures, and I've sent them out to city councils, and they're like, well, is that us? Yeah, that's you. And because I think we are all more critical of our community than others are. And so when you see some of this stuff, I'm saying, this is all true. And you've got a great community here. And they're like, wow, I guess it is pretty nice. But it's all about packaging and emphasizing the things that are really good about this community and about this position. And that's what we do. Then the application deadline comes, and then I spend 10 days to 2 weeks digging into the applications. Now, to be honest with you, I'm looking at them the entire time. I'm kind of, as they come in, I'm checking them out and seeing what we got. And I will give you, as this goes, I'll probably work through Jill, and she was telling me there's a weekly update that goes out, and she can include this in the update, but I will, I'll indicate not only quantity, but my sense of quality. We may have, 30 applications when we're halfway through. That would be awesome quantity, but if the quality's not there, it doesn't really matter. I'd rather have 15 and have 6 really good ones, but I'll share with you as the process goes on how things are going, okay? But once they come in, then I go through each and every application in detail. I'm pull out that candidate profile, and I'm using that as I look at these candidates. Do they have the skills and attributes that the city council told me they were looking for? What is their experience? What's their employment record? This is usually a time that I will call people that may know the candidate or know the applicant. What do you know of so-and-so if I don't know them? Just to get more information. And then I will collect what I consider to be the qualified and strongest candidates, the ones that I think are you should legitimately consider, and I will put together a report on those candidates. And that could be 6, it could be 18. I just don't know till we get into it, but we will provide a lot of information. Each one of those candidates I will interview myself through Zoom or some other virtual platform, and I usually spend about an hour getting to know the candidate. Just if I don't know them, getting to know their personality, probing some things on their resume that may be a red flag or concern, sharing information about Marshalltown, answering their questions about the position, because they're always curious. I mean, they've applied, but there's no guarantee they'll accept. They want to know more about Marshalltown. So that's a very important exchange. And then we do preliminary reference checks even at that early stage, and we'll do some Google searching just to see if there's anything obvious on the internet, some shenanigans that they were involved in. Anything we find out that's problematic, we'll tell you. If something's too problematic, we'll drop them. And that's happened. We do a Google search and it blows up on us. Oh my gosh, this is somebody you're not going to be interested in. Maybe they've been involved in some criminal activity or some unethical behavior. Those are not candidates we're going to bring forward. So we will then, those candidates that I consider to be the top candidates, I'll divide them into 2 tiers. There's a tier 1 group, which these are the rock stars. These are the one that check the most boxes from the candidate profile. These are your best candidates. And then there's tier 2, good candidates, maybe something about their background that's a question mark. Maybe they lack a little bit of experience. people, you all may be interested in some of those. It's not uncommon that when I present these candidates, the city council will say, I like this person in tier 2. I'd like to know more about them. Great. But we'll sit down and go through each of those applicants and talk about them. And I'll tell you what I've learned about them, good and bad. We'll also present you with information about all of the applicants. There may be somebody in that pool that I looked over for some reason. You can ask, what about this person from, Tucumcari, New Mexico? Why aren't they in the list? And I'll share with you why I didn't include them, but you may say, well, I want to talk to them. I think I'm interested. Fine. It's your process. It's your selection. So that's the candidate presentation. Now, at some point during this process, I'm going to ask you to narrow the field. And usually we're talking 3 to 5. It can be 2. It can be 7. But the bigger the number, the more complicated it is. But I will also say it is not unusual that city councils will do some Zoom interviews. Let's make the group a little bit bigger, and let's spend a half an hour on a Zoom call with each of them. Even though they may be all over the country, that doesn't cost anything and gives you a flavor for what they are, their communication style, their personality. And then you can decide which ones to invite to the community to kick the tires and to really get to know them. Again, maybe it's 3, which is fine. The only downside is we typically ask the city to cover their travel expenses, and that's pretty standard in the industry. So the more you bring in, particularly if they're far away, it's a little more costly. At that stage, once we have the final group, then GovHR does a much deeper background dive. We are now doing a full-blown background investigation, credit check, criminal background check. We verify their employment, we verify their educational, everything they put in their resume, we make sure that they did it. And you'd be surprised what we find sometimes when somebody fudges on their resume. Anything that's noteworthy from that process, we'll share it with you. Sometimes there's nothing. They're clean as a whistle. But, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I have a question. In the past, we've had the police department, Chief Tupper, do a background check. Do you do it instead of Tupper? Or
He can do it. I'm sure he's got other things
I'm
to do.
just
But
asking, should we
we
have
actually
both of you do
hire our company hires a third party that's what they do, background investigations. But I have had situations where the police department has done their own. That's fine, if that's what they want to do. I usually would suggest if you go to that step, wait until you have 1 or 2. So they're not doing it for 4 or 5, and that may not be necessary.
I would just, I'm comfortable with just you doing it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if also the police department does one. Or is that just?
It's not typical, but it can, you can do whatever you want to do. If you want them involved, we can get them involved. Okay. That's really ultimately your call, but I think our background investigation process is very thorough. And again, we hire a third party that's what they do. These background, that's their business, is do background checks. So once we do that, then you're interviewing. And you're going through some sort of an interview process here in Marshalltown, and that's something we're going to talk about. What's that process look like? You can also, if you choose to, excuse me, lost my pen. If you choose to, there are other things that you can do. We do testing, like leadership and personality testing. That's a slight additional cost. It's not much. That's just another tool to help you evaluate the candidates. We can do things like assessment centers. Those are additional costs, but to help you better evaluate and I think get to know the candidates if you choose to. And when we get to that point, we'll talk about that. Okay, we'll talk about those options, whether you want to do it or not. I would say about 25% of the time, city councils will want to do some testing. It's fairly inexpensive, maybe a couple $100 a candidate. They fill out something, you get a report that gives their sort of their personal leadership style. And I've found those to be remarkably accurate. I've taken them myself, and they nailed me. And one of the questions I oftentimes, because I'll share that with the candidates. Do you want to see what your test said? And I ask them, was it accurate? And almost always they said, yeah, I think it's spot on. So they're really quite good, and there's a variety of tests that we offer you can use. When we get to that point, I can make some recommendations if you choose that. It's not necessary. So once the interviews have taken place, then it's a matter of making a decision. And hopefully we can arrive at a unanimous decision. Sometimes there's disagreement behind closed doors. I usually encourage city councils, if there's a clear majority supporting one candidate, when it comes to a public vote, let's make it unanimous. I think it's important to get behind that candidate if you can. Doesn't always work that way, but that's certainly, I think, the goal, is to come up with somebody that everyone can support. And then you make an employment offer, and I'll assist with that process as well. I tell councils, let me be the bad guy, and we'll negotiate, and I'm pretty upfront with candidates. If it's an overreach, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to take that to the city council. I won't support that. And sometimes you get them a little overreaching. If they ask for something that's not offered, I think it's reasonable. I'll tell you, I think it's reasonable. And so hopefully within a few days, we can reach agreement on all the major employment terms and then put those terms into an employment agreement. And then it's a matter of bringing it to a public vote. So that's kind of an overview of the process, and that's kind of how we generally approach it. But again, if you want to do something different, we'll do what you want to do. And if I think there's a problem with that, I'll share my concerns, but it's your call. Let me stop there and see if you have questions, because we covered a lot.
You did a very good job.
Thank you. No question. You got a shot at me tomorrow too. So feel free to ask questions tomorrow. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's begin to talk about what kind of car we want. Do we want that sports car, or do we want an SUV? Whatever. Let's talk about. I know your current ordinance, I think, requires that the city administrator have a master's degree, typically in public administration, but some may have an MBA. I think that's fine. I'm generally, I think a master's degree is great. I have one. Did it make me a better city manager? No. But it's a demonstration that you've committed to a pretty complicated educational course, and you completed it successfully. The lion's share of the candidates that will apply will have master's degrees. Occasionally you get somebody that does a bachelor's degree but maybe lots of experience. But again, your ordinance requires a master's degree, and I'm okay with that if you are.
Anyone have any disagreement?
Jill, jump in if I miss something, okay? Yeah. Professional experience. The job description says 5 to 10 years. I don't know if that means 5 or 10. But in that range, I would say, but it's nice to put a number on it so people know. 5 is on the lean side for a job like this. This is a big job. This is a complicated job. Are there people that have 5 years experience that could do it? Probably. There's some, young whippersnappers out there that are really sharp, and they may see this as a golden opportunity. That's on the low end of the spectrum. 10 is probably on the high end of the spectrum for a minimum requirement. I might suggest 7. And again, as the applicants come in, we evaluate them on how much experience and what type of experience, what type of community. We probably would favor people that have Iowa experience. They understand the statutes and so forth, but I wouldn't limit it to Iowans. There are some good people in other states. I will say that 80, probably 70 to 75% of your applicants will come from the Midwest. Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota, Missouri, Wisconsin, this general vicinity. But we'll get some, we'll advertise nationwide. You'll get Florida, Texas, California, Colorado. It's always interesting to see, and you may get some international. We occasionally get international applicants, which is always interesting. So I think it's fair to say that we prefer somebody that has experience as a city administrator. It's not absolutely required, but I think it's a preference. You'd like to have somebody that has done it before, or at least as an assistant in a significant community that understands the role. Is that reasonable to you guys? Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit more generally about skill sets, and I'm gonna start these at each end, and I think you might have seen these forms. Take one, Mark, and pass it on, and I'm gonna give. This is a different form. It looks similar to Gary. And take one and pass it, and then the extras, Cindy can fill one out. So this is a list of both professional skills and experience, as well as the second one is more personal attributes. And while we are just having a conversation, I'd like you to circle the 5 most important to you on each list. Now, don't overthink it, because you could sit here all day and they're all important, okay? But the 5 that are most important to you, and again, this isn't super scientific. It's not, it's not something that you're going to be graded on. But it gives me an initial indication of where you are at as a group. Are you reasonably aligned, or are you all over the map? And either is fine. You don't have to put your name on it, by the way. And what I'll do is when I collect these, I'll tabulate them and send the results out, and you can all see it. But while you're doing that, share with me individually what you think, what is really important to you in the next city administrator. Some either skill set or some personal attribute or a leadership style. And we will talk more about this individually, but I'm curious to get your sort of thoughts here in this environment as to what you feel you really want to see in the next administrator.
So you're wanting the one words off of this sheet?
Well, no,
an example or just a description?
Just tell me, you don't need to list but if there's something, Jeff, that you really think is important, tell me and talk to me a little bit about it.
Perfect. I think organization would be a big one, as well as, a desire to work hard. Tireless is the attribute that's on this sheet that came up that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of balls in the air at any one point in time, and calling her quits at 5 o'clock and then not coming back till the morning probably isn't acceptable for this type of role.
What do you mean by organization a little bit? Tell me.
Just be able to stay organized. There's a whole lot of topics, a lot of things to know, and the things you know are changing all the time. So I think somebody needs to be fairly well organized, both physically with their documents and email and everything, but also as well as organized in their thoughts.
Perfect. Thank you. Others?
Okay, so I would basically be with Jeff on the organized. I'd also put probably informed. There's a lot of rules and regulations to follow. I think it's important that they have a handle on those. And then it gets a little tougher.
Okay.
What's the next one? But I'd probably...
You don't have to give me more, but if you've got them, I'll take them.
I would say analytical would probably be coming next for me.
Okay, great. Gary?
Mark, I'd say loyal to us, loyal to the city, put us before them, so that would lead to the next one, that they need to check their ego at the door. You bring it out when they need to, but for most parts, check it at the door. They need to be truthful. I mean, we need to know the truth because of the decisions we need to make.
Yep.
And then part of the organized thing, they've got to be multitask oriented. There's so many people that that I know and have experienced in my varied careers, that they're smart as heck, but geez, don't give them three things to do. You know, they can't do it. So
Excellent.
I guess that's where I'm at.
Good stuff. Mike? Mayor Pro
Okay.
Tem?
On personal characteristics, I want somebody who's innovative. The role of city government is changing. I don't want someone who wants to, this is the way we're going to do it, because this is the way we did it 30 years ago, and realize that we have to reach out to other groups and to get to where we want to go in the city. I also think someone's going to have to be organized. There are so many things that go through the city administrator's office in one day that someone who's very brilliant but is just a mess all over the place getting things done doesn't get things done. As far as professional skills, one of the first things that I put down was communication. Communication with the local media sources, communication with different groups in town, communication with the city councilors and the mayor, communication with the county. That's going to have to be a pretty strong suit, because I often hear that at times different media sources or whatever, they're not quite sure what we're doing or having trouble getting any kind of communication, that kind of thing. And to be open and transparent, I think we need to say what we do and do what we say. That covers quite a few.
Excellent. Barry?
Specific to the personal characteristics, I think there's a lot of commonality up to this point. I think one that I had that wasn't spoke about openly anyway is being accountable. Obviously, this is the leader of the city, and the willingness to take bullets for others or be that single throat to choke, probably terrible words, but just encompassing that overall leadership characteristics of it. Specific to the professional skills, Mike talked about the innovation piece of it. I think we're all realistic where we are as a community and the challenges we have. So some of that agility, that innovation, I think would suit us well moving forward. Talked about strategic planning already. Yeah, and then obviously communication that goes hand in hand with being a leader.
Excellent. Mark?
I think we need a well-grounded man. We need a work truck, somebody that's not scared to get down and get dirty, and open-minded. Three of my top ones.
I know you, just in doing a little homework, you've got a lean staff. So the administrators, it's a working position. It's not just a delegating position. There's going, and it's not uncommon in a city this size that the administrator's got to be a producer, not just a delegator, although delegation is also important. When I talk with city councils about hard skills, the three things that I tend to hear over and over is, number one is budget and finance. We want somebody who's good with the numbers, understands budgeting, understands finances, is able to guide us through some complicated, financial decisions. The other thing I often hear is HR, and that's kind of all-encompassing in dealing with being a good supervisor, a good leader, understanding, HR principles and practices. And then the third one that almost always comes up is economic development. Everybody wants a rainmaker. We want more jobs. We understand in order to solve maybe some of our financial problems, we've got to grow our tax base. And so those are three things that I hear, and I see a lot of head nodding. Yeah, all those. And there isn't anything on that list or very few things that you'd say I don't want. They're all important, but it comes down to what are the priorities, and then again, I'll put that profile together, and I think you'll find that interesting. I always do when I collect all this data and all this information and feedback, and then I show you, this is what you told me you want ideally. And you first look at it and say, that's a tall order. And it is. It'll be a tall order, and we won't get somebody that could do everything or checks every box, but you'd be surprised. If we know what we want up front, then our chances of getting that later are vastly improved, as opposed to really just going out and seeing what, boy, I like that red sports car. That's pretty sharp, but it's not very practical for us. So good, that's excellent. And I understand residency, is that required? I'm frankly okay with that. There are, in larger metropolitan areas, requiring residency is harder. But here, you want your administrator to live in town. I don't know where else they would go. They live out in a farm or something, and I'm okay with that. And I know you've done some relocation assistance in the past, talking with Jill, and that's fine. We don't even need to go into detail, but it is important that you're willing to have that conversation when we get to that point, that will provide some help getting your family moved. And it's not big dollars. What you've done in the past is more than reasonable. I also understand the position has an auto allowance, which is good. Is that, we all understand that? And there's some deferred comp after you're here a while. The vacation benefits, again, Jill has told me a lot of this. Great. You provide professional development. That's important when you talk about being informed and being innovative and being up to date on trends. It's important that you encourage the administrator to be involved in these professional organizations and attend these meetings, and that's good. Kind of jumping ahead, you do an employment agreement with a severance package. So you check all those boxes. Those are all good. That's all helpful as we go start recruiting. These are all things that I can sell. I'm going to skip 9 since we're in a public meeting. I really don't want to talk about individual names, but I'll hit that with you when we talk individually. Let's talk a little bit about, and don't need to make any decisions tonight about how you want to go about evaluating and screening these candidates. Obviously, the entire body is going to be involved, as opposed to a subset. And that sometimes happens where City Council will appoint a search committee to do a lot of that work. I don't think you don't have a big group. It's not like you've got a 20-member board, so I think you all should be involved. I can tell you the candidates want to meet all of you. They don't want to meet 3 of you and not know what the others are like. So I think it's good that you're involved. Oftentimes when we start meeting with final candidates, we get other people involved. And you need to think about whether you want your senior staff involved, again, just in meeting the candidates and giving you some input. I will tell you this, candidates like to meet the staff. They like the opportunity to talk with the staff. This is their team. And they like that to get a sense of where the staff are at. When staff gets involved, I sit down with them and I say, now you understand you're not making the decision. You're providing input, and I think most councils will listen to that input, but you all have a lot of other things to consider in making a final decision that go beyond what the staff may want to consider. But I think having their input is valuable, but that's a call that you have to make. Not all city councils want their staff involved, but it's something that I'd like you to think about. And then some want other community stakeholders, community leaders involved. That's something that you can talk. That gets a little bit complicated sometimes. Who is invited, who is not invited? How is that structured? We just have to be careful with it, but it's doable, and it's not uncommon that you'll get other people involved. I'm not a fan of the community meet and greets. where and that comes where you all come in and meet the candidates at the the high school gymnasium or what have you. We can do that, and there are city councils that feel it's important to get the community involved in the decision. I'm just not sure it's helpful to all of you. Usually each candidate gets up and talks for 10 or 15 minutes, and then they kind of go around and meet people, and I'm not sure you get really good input. Somebody in the community says, well, I really like this guy, real nice tie, and he's tall. That's what you get. They don't really have a chance to get to know them like you have and understand their backgrounds. But if that's something that's important to you, we will do it. I will tell you, I won't name the name, but there was another Iowa city in Iowa that were hell-bent, we're going to do that. And so, okay, we planned an evening, and there were 4 candidates that came with their spouses to this. They have a big community center. Nobody showed up, other than some employees and 2 council members. The mayor didn't show. And the council members were like, is this? I go, But there was nobody came. So it was kind of a waste of time. But again, I'm not a fan of that process, but if that's something you want to do, we'll make it work. Now, again, I'm going to be interviewing all of you. Who else would you like me to interview? Senior staff? Just again, up front to sort of get thoughts on the organization and the challenges and what they'd like to see in the new administrator. Any community people, community leaders in leadership positions you'd like me to interview, I'm happy to do that. I already said I'd like to interview Cindy if you'll let me, because I think she's got some interesting perspectives from what I understand that you do and have done for the city. But it's all part of understanding what we're looking for in Marshalltown. But it's your call. I mean, I'll talk to anybody within reason that you want me to talk to, but you decide who you want to have some time with me. Okay? And you can give me that feedback as we talk tomorrow as to what you want us to do. Lastly, confidentiality. I'm going to ask that you, when you get names of candidates, please don't disclose them. It's really, really important. Some of these candidates are gainfully employed in the public sector, and you know this environment. And some of them will ask me up front, is my name going to be published? And the answer is no. We don't publish names. Is there any way it can be disclosed? And my answer is we do our best not to disclose the names or identities of candidates, because once they're disclosed, they're out there. It's like wildfire. So I won't give you any names till we get towards the latter part of the process, okay? But you will then get names, and I'll ask that you not call your counterparts in city XYZ and say, hey, what's this? Don't do that. There may come a time where you can do that at the very end of the process, but confidentiality is really important. And I know of candidates that I have had in recruitment environments that it got back to their city council that they were applying, and one was terminated. They were absolutely furious that he was looking, and they came to him and says, you need to withdraw, and he said, I'm not withdrawing, I'm interested, and they terminated him, which is horrible. But things can happen, so I just can't emphasize the importance of confidentiality enough as we go through this process. I'm going to stop there and answer your questions or consider any ideas that you all have.
Does anyone have anything for Mark?
I think we need time today and tomorrow to think about and come with a little more intelligent
Absolutely,
responses.
Yeah. We'll have a chance. And again, even after tomorrow, if there's a thought you have or a question, call me. Yeah, I'm available. I return phone calls.
Okay.
Good.
We'll see you tomorrow.
I will look forward to it. Thank you all for indulging me, and I really am looking forward to working with all of you. It's going to be a great process. Oh, yeah, you want to turn those into me, and I'll...
I was supposed to circle 5.
Extra? Okay.
Yeah, I'm still working on mine.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's the end of our agenda. Meeting adjourned at 7:24. I have to give these